Hi there. I'm going to do a review for the movie Middlemen. I believe this movie came out in 2009 and kind of it's got some familiar faces in it. More or less directed by George Gallo, which I'm pretty sure is not the best known name out there. There's a few notable people though. These guys got their start in prior films and been in prior things. Um, does have Luke Wilson in it. Does have Gabriel Macht in it. James Caan. A few bigger names. Not too bad of a film. It's basically about the rise of the the online transaction industry for pornography, and more or less what that the whole joke is that it's all about how these two guys figured out how to get people to pay for porn through website transactions. Now, I don't know how accurate this movie actually is. It seems like 90% of this is just pure drama and comedy, and maybe 10% is based on some concept that indeed there was websites started in the 90s that did cater to online credit card transactions for porn viewing. But otherwise, I don't think much more than that is accurate. I am assuming there was definitely some crooked lawyers along the way, but I get the feeling that most of what happened in this movie is mostly pure concoction of Hollywood. It's kind of a kind of an amusing film because the two guys are like once I don't know. Like I said, it's pure concoction because supposedly these guys are like got some serious problems and they're going on their head. One of them supposedly like a software engineer. That's supposedly what he is. Because he writes up a program. They're wondering why there's no porn on the internet, so they write up a program that hosts some pictures, and they, they they start getting chimes, and it's so funny because you can't believe any of it really because it seems like all of it's just really silly. Not sure again how much of this is actually true and what's true, but it does seem like a little bit of concoction. It's kind of one of those movies where you gotta kind of see it to believe it. More or less, of course, in order to get a hold of more pornography, the guys have to enlist the help of the Russian mob. Um, and this leads to a whole pile of problems. But the biggest thing is they enlist the aid of a certain was it lawyer? I think he's a lawyer. I didn't really pay attention to what he was supposed to be. Um, he's more or less trying to Jack Harris, who's like trying to. Um, I'm not sure what he does. He's just a businessman. I'm not even sure he's a lawyer. But nonetheless, he's helping these guys out start up their business. Basically, they enlist his help, and he somehow gets involved in the whole thing. He somehow becomes the primary too. I think it's mostly because of the silliness of the two guys that started the business, who don't really know anything. They don't seem to know very much, despite the fact one of them supposedly a real genius. They're supposedly all just I'm not even sure how to describe it. They're supposedly crazy guys, but yeah, they got some silly problems in this movie with all kinds of things. I don't know. It's got one of the big problems of too much hard to believe. It is a fun movie. That's what it's going for. It's definitely a fun movie. Definitely trying to fund the premise that Jack Harris has gotten himself in over his head, of course, because this is starting to involve bigger people, and of course, lots of other people are getting involved, including other crooked lawyers like Jerry Haggerty, played by James Caan. But it's all so hilarious. This is like the equivalent of any movie that's ever been made that shows you got Wilson as Jack Harris, and Giovanni Ribisi, and Gabriel Macht playing Wayne Beering and Buck Dolby. They're both incompetent, and so how they actually get this business started, I don't really know. They just seem to luck out half the time with all their business partners. And that's where the funny part is that somehow they get this business going. I'm like thinking, well, I don't know how the heck they got the business started if they don't even seem to know how to do anything else. But nonetheless, they end up dealing with the mob. They end up dealing with this random lawyer. And of course, things happen because eventually Jack Harris meets Audrey Dawns, who's like a stripper, and she's got a website for porn, displaying herself. And it's rather amusing watching all this stuff unfold because, of course, it's like this hilarious stunt of a movie. Um, as the business grows, they run into bigger and bigger problems, though, because of course these two knuckleheads can't figure out how to do anything like pay their actual guys because they were supposed to be in a business partnership with the Russians. One of them was played by Raid Serbetsya, and they completely lost all sense of reality because they don't know how to pay anybody. Don't understand how they can go so long without paying anybody. They're so out of it they don't even realize they have a $2 million check in the cabinet at one point. It's just funny. It's just funny to watch it. And of course, Jack Harris is married and has kids, so of course his wife and kids he has to try and placate their situation by getting himself in a lot of stuff. She finds out eventually that he's involved in. She's a little bit. She gets really sort of angry with him for a little bit, but of course, as anybody can imagine, things she sort of lives with it because, of course, it's bringing in enough money that they can essentially afford nice cars, nice houses, good private schools. So she kind of placates herself and says, "I'll live with this," but she's like, "It's wrong, but I have to live with it because it's giving us so much stuff." She is willing to look the other way as long as and of course Jack is trying to be fair about this. He knows that if he goes into any kind of troubles, he loses his marriage, and that's really where the pro like that's the thing that things get weirder and weirder as the movie goes on. Eventually, he does meet Audrey, who's like a film online stripper of sorts. Almost has a relationship with her. Luckily, he pulls the plug on it just in time, I think. But nonetheless, they get into a lot of silly trouble with a lot of people. I think it is actually funny that they get involved in the Russians. And the nice thing about this movie is the Russians are actually not that terrible per se. I mean, obviously there's corruption in the system, but the Russian guy is like one of those more sort of understandable. He's like, you haven't been paying me. I want to get paid. He says, you're late on your payments. This was our business deal. You got to pay me. And of course, that's the whole joke of the movie is that these two whack jobs who started the business in the first place just do not, for some reason, they have all this. The one has all this engineering talent. He's supposedly a NASA scientist, and he doesn't know how to do basic things. And so you got enlisting the help of so many people. And of course, it's attracting other attention. It attracts the attention of the state of Texas, attracts the attention of the FBI. So many people attracts the attention of. Eventually, they find out that Audrey's online business is, of course, attracting the attention of terrorism, and of course, that leads to a whole new bag of cards there. Of course, the Texas governor, he's like, "You've been dealing in pornography," and of course, he shows them his list of websites he's been visiting over the last month and a half. I'm not sure how you can possibly be so lacking, but whatever. It's the movie again. 90% probably fictional. I suspect there was many websites starting up in the 90s that dealt with selling pornography on the internet, and this was just one of many options that people had. And this one just it became a story, and I'm sure there was lots of corruption along the way, lots of business interests that came involved. Nonetheless, it's a fun little movie. Things do get rectified, of course, as they always do. The two guys that tried to start the business end up basically in trouble with the law because, of course, they really don't know how to do anything. That's one of the reasons why I think it's a pure fantasy because I can't believe they really didn't know what they were doing. Of course, lots of other people who were involved get into trouble, and eventually Jack Harris gets a free deal because in the end, he was really just the businessman. He was not trying to be too involved. He knew the problems though of being involved. His wife was willing to live with the situation as long as it produced, as long as it didn't backtrack on him. And he did try to keep the problems of the company away from her, because that was the basic deal, is that he can't lose the family. So yeah, it ends up working out in the end. It's a pretty funny. It's actually more comedic than dramatic. It's a kind of a funky film. Nonetheless, yeah, it's worth a viewing. It's got some bigger names in it for playing the actors. It got some pretty good acting, pretty good screenplay. Again, how accurate it is, I don't know. I've never looked it up. I think it's only mildly accurate. I'm sure some of this, I'm sure a small bit of it's truthful, but for most part, I think it's just pure fantasy. I can't see two knuckleheads running a company like these guys did and staying in business longer than like a year. But yes, who knows? Yeah.